Thank you, sir, for those kind words. It's very difficult to speak in front of so many of my former bosses, and some of them sitting on the podium and the front rows as well. So I'm a little overwhelmed. Coming to the topic, this is the panel discussion on a way forward. Basically, when we were designing this conference and the theme, we were trying to understand really what are the prospects of stability and growth in South Asia. And I must admit that we were not really looking at the stability and growth connection in any academic way. It's more like in common sense way that if there is no stability, then growth will be a bit difficult. So it's in that sense that we designed this conference, but the discussions have been very enriching, and Professor Muni's opening address or opening presentation, I think, changed the complexion of this conference quite significantly and raised the level of discussion. We have had, I'm really going to focus on what are the prospects of stability and growth in South Asia. And we heard many superb presentations over the last 1.5 days. I mean, really, they were very informative and very well presented and very well structured. Obviously, I think when I started putting my thoughts together, I was generally in the pessimistic mode. But maybe after listening to some of these presentations, I will moderate a little bit, my pessimism a little bit. But on the whole, I think I still probably will tilt in favor of towards pessimism, unfortunately. And I'll tell you why. We have heard in these presentations that several of the South Asian countries have remarkable achievements over the last few years. But the problems are also quite substantial, and they're all, as I think one of our chair yesterday said, many of them are struggling with these problems. So struggling is really the word, and I think that is where we are at the moment. And a large number of issues were highlighted by the speakers, or what these challenges are, and they're related to inequalities, politicization of institutions, weak institutions, judicial activism, questions of sustainable development, culture of violence, the nature of coalitions in our part of the world, corruption, unemployment, and all kinds of things were said, and the list is really very long. So these are the problems. Unless they are tackled properly, I think the danger to stability and hence to growth will remain. And we heard in the last session our chair telling us what I think is something like a Gujarat plus doctrine, which probably needs to be adopted. And he said 3 pillars. I remember 2 of them, sir: trust and altruism. What was the third one? Sacrifice. Yes, I got it on my iPad, but since I'm not reading from my iPad, so trust, sacrifice, and altruism as should be integral part of our policies. And this brings me to a point that we have sometimes discussed in the IDSA, where can personal ethics be brought into international politics? But anyway, that's a separate debate. But I think this was a very refreshing contribution you made, and one can probably discuss it. As I said, individually the countries have achieved a lot. 6% per annum has been generally the norm for the last many years. And but the basic problem we haven't yet really tackled, and that is that of eradicating poverty and providing security in its wider sense. And one of the stark statistics of South Asia, which has been often spoken about, is that nearly 350 million children suffer from malnutrition. I mean, that's the end result of all this is that's where we are, and there may be many other. And widespread unemployment is other major deficiency. So if development deficit is not removed in the next few years, the seeds of instability would have been laid in South Asia. Uh, the second dimension of the South Asian stability is the lack of security. And we did not really focus very much on security in the last 1.5 days. And in some sense it was good. Some sense it was good because at least we could have a clearer picture of when you approach South Asia from economic side or from political angle, how South Asia looks. But the fact is that you cannot brush aside the very substantial problems of security. And we have discussed these in so many other conferences. And of course, some brief references were made. But how to deal with numerous security issues, to which now many aspects of human security have been added, is a big challenge now. And many countries face problems on the internal security front as well. Terrorism, energy, food, water, etc. are now big challenges. And I don't think we have yet a proper way, firstly, even to comprehend these problems and then to devise the solutions. And the region will have to cope up with the consequences of climate change, which will be a problem multiplier in a way, and also a source of instability. The other issue that I was trying to understand, and I probably did not get a clear answer, but do South Asians really think and act as South Asians? I mean, we have put it as South Asia. In India, of course, South Asia is a fairly common term. But in other countries, do we have that South Asian identity? And my own feeling is that perhaps the South Asian identity, that's why I think these questions are also raised about what is South Asia, should it be Southern Asia, and the region is connected with the other regions, etc. But probably we do not think as South Asians as such, and as a result, although we have SAARC, etc., but probably not much progress has been made. So passionately we are not thinking about South Asia, and most people look for opportunities in the other regions. And many South Asians are looking for livelihood, for instance, in large numbers abroad. The flight of human capital in droves to other parts of the globe does not augur well for the region in the long run. And this is just one example. The third issue is about the role of external powers, and US and China was mentioned briefly but not discussed in detail. But I think how US-China relationship pans out and what impact it will have on South Asia, I think South Asia is very vulnerable to these external challenges. Then South Asia is not a region in isolation. It is buffeted by other regions which are undergoing great transformation, be it in West Asia, Central Asia, or East Asia. Our destinies are linked with these regions. The negative fallout from these regions can affect us adversely. And fourth point, which I mentioned yesterday also, and I want to highlight it, and that is the developments in the Indian Ocean region. This is a matter of great importance for us. Presently, the concept of Indo-Pacific Ocean, or the confluence of the two oceans, is gaining currency. Now, South Asia is vulnerable to the great power game that is unfolding in this vast oceanic strategic region. Is South Asia going to play a role in shaping the game, or will it be a mute spectator? So there is a lot of this external environment around South Asia which will affect the prospects of growth and stability here. One disappointment has been that that we have not been able to inculcate the culture of cooperation, and that's what was mentioned in the last session as well. South Asia is one of the least integrated regions in the world. Regional integration trends in Central Asia, East Asia, Africa, and even South America are unfolding. We recently held a seminar here on UNASUR. I did not know that there's something called UNASUR till we got all these ambassadors together and we had a 3 hours seminar. UNASUR is this new organization which came into force just, the treaty, etc., came into force just last year. And these people have already made 9 ministerial councils, including a defense council, where they're thinking in terms of looking at common defense budgets, reducing defense budgets, what kind of CBMs should you have, etc. Then, of course, many other on currency, on trade, investment, tourism, education, etc., etc. And these ministerial councils are meeting regularly. And there is this great desire, although they may or may not achieve it, to bring a kind of a European Union kind of a model in South America. And all these ambassadors, despite the problems and huge history, etc., they were all very optimistic about it. So these integration trends are unfolding in other parts of the world, but perhaps they have not, despite the fact that we were one of the pioneers, 83 we set up SARC, etc., but we haven't really made much progress. And so UNASUR is the latest example of an ambitious regional integration project. Efforts are being made to deal with common problems, be they be of development or security, and they are taking these problems head on. But here there is some kind of a shyness. And they have instituted dialogues of various types. Nothing is taboo for discussion. In South Asia, integration processes have barely moved despite the existence of SARC and BIMSTEC. Regional cooperation is beset with trust deficit, and that's what Ambassador Khosla talked about. And this position needs to be redressed. Now, South Asia is passing through an extraordinary period of change and transformation. Many positive changes have taken place, undoubtedly, but we have not been able to deal with the core issues of development and security. So we're just going around in circles, perhaps. So I would worry about the prospects of growth and stability in the region. I would think that regional integration should really be given a very high priority, and we should do all that is possible to really, time has come to really step up and regional integration or regional cooperation, whatever we want to call it. Then perhaps we may be able to solve these problems. Otherwise, all these efforts will be essentially individual efforts or some kind of a bilateral efforts. It may not take us very far. Thank you, sir.